At the end, we're going to give you a chance to ask questions. Please keep the questions general, not specific to your particular policy or experience. Those questions should be reserved for afterwards or making an appointment with either one of them. And please try not to be critical of the Thai government. When you talk, it's actually against the law to do that here. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rhys from Assist Thai Visa and Andy Williams from CNX Insure.
Okay, Andy's just leaving the stage, so I'm just going to do a quick recap, and then Andy will give you a quick recap maybe, and then we're going to do some Q&A. Before I start, I'd just like to thank Dave for all the work that he did over the COVID time. Just for his it's a huge amount of effort in just organising the CEC, and then I think, you know, from what we've seen and what he's achieved is actually, you know, incredibly impressive, and credit where credit's due. And then also to thank everyone from the CEC who's kept all the members updated. You know, obviously as businesses we try, but they have a greater reach. And for the organisation today, David McPhee, whose birthday was yesterday, so wishing a happy birthday everyone as well, please. Okay, so last time I spoke to you around 6 months ago, we were starting with COVID and visas and what was going on. And since then, there's been quite a few changes in terms of amnesty and extensions. So I'll just go over the list of current visas that most of you will be on, and what just give you a sort of a recap. And then we'll look at what's actually happening now with immigration. So, in terms of retirement visa, nothing has changed. You still have to have that 800,000 in for 2 months before, 3 months after, and then it can drop to 400,000 for the rest of the year. The difference with retirement visa, and we've had quite a lot of our clients caught out with this, is the 65,000 baht per month transfer instead of having the lump sum in. So people using pensions or even funds coming into the country with the FTT transfer. So as many of you will know now, you need 12 months bank statements. The difficulty has been when people have been transferring money, 2 transfers have gone in 1 month. So for example, you send it on the 30th of September and the money immediately arrives in Thailand. Now unfortunately there's no way that you can really protect against that other than sending it in the exact month that you need it in. And of course, what that has led to with immigration is refusing the extension, because they need the monthly transfer every single month. So if 1 month has 2 transfers in, they will not allow you to extend your visa. So if you are using the monthly method, whether that's for retirement or for spouse, just make sure, you know, maybe pick a day, the 3rd or the 4th, so that you don't have this situation where if there's a holiday, you have 2 transfers in 1 month. Otherwise, when you go to extension and you take your bank statements, they won't allow it. Okay, so that's for retirement. For spouse, it's the same thing again, right? So for spouse, you have to have the 400,000 in for the 2 months before, or you can do the 40,000 monthly, which comes into the account every month. Just be aware that if you're using the monthly method, not to let it go across. For people that aren't on long stay visas or on a short-term visa, obviously you'll have a couple of new things to sort of pay attention to. At the moment, embassies are giving out letters for 30-day extensions. The embassy is currently doing that in the UK, the US as well. Some embassies are not giving out those letters. There is talk that on Monday they will announce the amnesty extension for another month. But that is only talk at the moment, and it will not help everyone that was just spent queuing at immigration for the last week to try and rush to get extensions. But that is the talk, that they will extension the amnesty for another week, another month, until October 26th. For people caught outside Thailand, and I'm not going to dwell too much on this because obviously everyone is here, but if you have friends and relatives that are stuck outside, I don't believe the special entry tourist visa that's been given quite a lot of press is going to be the way to get them back in. But they are talking about they will start to allow retirees to come back into the country, so people with non-immigrant O's and people whose visa have expired. Again, the advice you can give to your friends and family is you need to contact the local embassy. So if you're in Washington, you go to the Washington DC, in London, the London Thai embassy. Unfortunately, they are getting quite a lot of communication, so it is taking a long time for those requests to be answered, but that's the best advice if you have anybody stuck in those situations. In terms of where to go for things now, obviously the immigration has opened up a Promenada again, and Promenada is handling the 30-day extensions and 90-day reporting. And then for retirement cases and spouse extensions, education extensions, they're all at the original airport. So in the current state, with how busy it is, just remember if you are over 70, you can get the priority queue. You can go and ask immigration for that form, or you can ask your agent about that as well. They have those forms that they can apply so that you're not having to spend a lot of time standing or queuing. And although there are no COVID cases from the survey that Dave did earlier, obviously everyone here is in much more of a high-risk group. So just if you're going to be mixing in immigration where likely people will be coming in from outside in the next few months, just take care of yourself, put your masks on, and go from there. So that's really the current update from immigration. There isn't any major changes. Andy's going to talk quite a lot about insurance and how that impacts the visas, and then if he needs any sort of clarification on the visas, I'll be happy to help. And then we're going to go and do a Q&A for any specific questions related to any of your concerns. Okay, so I'll hand over to Andy now. Thank you.
Hello. So as probably a lot of you know, in the last 6 or 7 months there's been some compulsory insurance which has been introduced into Thailand. There's two different kinds. The first one is for people that hold the OA visa. The second compulsory insurance is for something which you all will know about, something called COVID. So the first insurance is anyone that holds a retirement OA visa. It's become compulsory to have insurance. So when you come to extend your visa, you will need to show proof of insurance. And what they're looking for, the requirement is 400,000 baht worth of inpatient cover and 40,000 baht worth of outpatient cover. Unfortunately, they're not accepting any international insurance. The only insurance that they will accept is Thai insurance. And for the last time I checked, there's 12 providers that are accepted. And there's a list of those 12 providers. There's a whole range of different covers, so you can have absolute bare minimum of just the 400, just the 40, which will satisfy immigration. Perhaps have like a high deductible, which will give you a much lower premium. And the way that I always explain that to people is that you almost kind of got to think of that as it's like an additional tax really on your visa. Probably one of the questions that I come across the most is, how do I know if I'm on an OA or if I'm on an O? If you started your retirement visa process in your home country, that means that you are on an OA visa. If you came into Thailand on a tourist visa or any other kind of visa and you decided to start your retirement visa process here, that means you're on an O visa, and currently you don't need insurance for that. That doesn't mean to say that sometime in the near future that they won't push that across to the O visa, but currently that's only for the OA visa holders. And then the second type of insurance, which they've just introduced recently, since we've had COVID, is it's become compulsory for everyone who wants to get into the Kingdom of Thailand, that you must show that you have insurance. The requirements for that are slightly different. You must have a minimum of $100,000 US cover, and it must also cover COVID. But I would also sort of just warn people that just make sure as well that if you already have an insurance policy that that fits those requirements, it might cover like $1 million inpatient and $500,000 outpatient. Just make sure with your insurer that they will issue a certificate that states that you have that cover. So obviously everyone in the room now, it's not an issue at the moment because you're all here, but if you are going to leave and you are going to come back, you cannot get back into the country without showing that insurance. Obviously there's a whole list of different requirements, but that is one of them. Yeah, and I mean it's much shorter and sweeter than Rhys's visa. Visas are certainly a lot longer issue, but both open for Q&A. If anyone has any questions.
You guys are going to need to use the podium. They need to.
I have a first question over here. Just about the visa. So if you're a retiree with a non-O visa, you've been here for long, an O.
Yes.
Yep. And you need to have your 800,000 baht, so you're going with 800,000 baht in the passbook.
Yes.
So the bank, you go to the bank will give you a letter for immigration, update your passbook, and you need a
1 year statement.
1 year statement in addition to that for the 800,000 baht, right?
Yes, correct. You need
Okay.
to have a 1 year statement so that they can see that the 800,000 stayed in for the 3 months afterwards, and then that it never dropped below 400,000 for the year.
But it's a year, they want a full year.
Full 1 year statement now. Yeah, it was before, it was only 3 months before, but now they request the full 1 year statement.
Thank you.
No problem.
Question for Andy. The policy, the Healthcare International policy, that is that you offer a discount for expat club members. Not that I'm planning to leave Thailand anytime soon, but if it does become possible to leave and come back, does that policy meet the requirements for the COVID insurance?
Yes, it does. Actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that. Possibly not everyone here is aware that the Expats Club does have its own group health insurance policy. So anyone that's a lifelong member of the Expats Club is able to access that group policy and receive a 20% discount off of their policy, much like Nancy, who's a member. And yes, they will issue a certificate. So if you do need to leave, then anyone who happens to have that policy, all you could do is just ask me for that certificate. I would request that and send that to you, and that's what you'll show to immigration or the Thai embassy. So yes, that's correct.
Sorry, I might be repetitive here. So, if I go out of the country on holiday and come back, at the moment I personally am on an O visa, married, so I don't have to have insurance. But if I go overseas and come back, are you saying that I have to have COVID insurance?
Yeah. So when you come to extend your visa, you will need to, if you were on the OA visa, you would need to show insurance. In your case, you're on the O visa, so you could just extend your retirement visa, no problem. However, if and when, let's just say tomorrow, you left the country and you were going to come back in 2 weeks' time, to apply to come back in, you must show insurance, and they will not even let you get on the plane without showing you have insurance. So, yeah, they're very, very strict about that.
Oh,
So there's two different types of compulsory insurance right now.
so I have to have $100,000 insurance.
So your policy must have a minimum of $100,000 US cover, but it also must cover COVID. Now, when they first introduced it, the Thai wording of it was you must have $100,000 US cover worth of COVID insurance. However, really, in essence, as long as you have a policy that covers you for $1 minimum of 100,000 US dollars, and there's no exclusion on COVID, then that will get you back in. I just recently saw that, you know, this the tourist scheme that they're introducing. One of the plans they're talking about, it will cover the 100,000, and it covers COVID, but it only gives you 100,000 bahts worth of COVID cover. So if you came in on that tourist visa and you had an accident on your bike, it doesn't give you any cover for that. It only covers for your COVID cover. Whereas the group health insurance policy that you have here, it will cover those requirements and everything else as well.
Okay. The sensible thing to do if you're going overseas is to arrange the insurance beforehand.
I would suggest so, absolutely, yeah. And, you know, and I mean, certainly, you know, if you bought a policy here or through us, through CNX Insure, then it's going to be an international insurance, so it's going to cover you while you travel as well, you know, and it's going to get you back into the country. Okay.
If you already have insurance or have had insurance for a period of time, do you have to get supplemental COVID insurance added to it, or does it cover it?
Do you have insurance at the moment?
Yes.
So if the insurer that you have at the moment has a minimum of 100,000 US dollars cover or more, and it covers COVID, and they will issue that certificate, then you don't need to get supplemental insurance there.
When I originally got insurance, it wasn't during COVID, so I don't know whether it covers COVID or not.
No, that's it. I mean, obviously, because it's brand new, obviously, to the world, it's not written in none of the insurers have it written in their policies. So what they're doing is a sort of an addendum, if that's the right word for it, is they will issue an additional certificate that says, you know, as an exception, we will cover COVID. As far as I'm aware, Thailand is one of the very few countries that is required there is this insurance requirement.
So for those of us who have recently had birthdays and are looking forward to being over 75 at some point, could you talk about the over 75 issue?
Yeah, so there's a couple of markers along the way. Once you pass 65, there becomes fewer options, and then once you pass 75, there's even fewer. However, there are still options available. So you still can get insurance after the age of 75. It's not a problem. And those particular insurers will also issue certificates if you did need it for the purpose of leaving and coming back. What I would say is, you know, a lot of people kind of ask me, why can't they just get travel insurance? Well, travel insurers just typically, of their nature, they're able to change the terms and conditions of their policy. They're very short-term contracts, so with the travel insurance policies, for the most part, they've all removed COVID insurance. Any kind of COVID cover, so you can't get a travel policy that will cover that. You do need to get an annual policy. But in answer to your question, that yes, there are options over the age of 75.
But aren't they ruinously expensive?
Next question, please. It does become expensive, and certainly, you know, I found that there are people that really, you know, that have, one person in particular who was stuck abroad and needed to get back, and she had she was over 75. She had no choice but to buy one of these policies to get back into the country. So,
And how much was that?
How much was that? So she was, I think she was about 78, and it cost her around about 6,000 US dollars. 6,000. She was 78 years old, 6,000 US dollars. Obviously, you have options of taking a deductible excess, as we call it in the UK.
So this is a different kind of question. Knowing what you know, if you were in our shoes asking this question, what other questions would you be asking him? What is it that you know that we're not?
The only thing I could say is I personally think, in my experience, this is going to stay, this requirement for the COVID is going to stay for a while. Much like the OA visa insurance. I'd heard rumours of that coming in for many years, and I was very surprised when it came in, just because of all the kind of pitfalls that are with that. And, you know, not everyone can qualify to get the OA insurance, but I think, you know, once this COVID insurance, once they've seen that this works and it's in place, they will keep it in place. And I mean, the very earliest that they're ever going to even consider getting rid of this is when they find a vaccine. And, you know, as you know, everyone else's guess is as good as mine of how long it's going to take to get a vaccine. So, other than that, I don't have any other inside information. But
I mean, for me, in terms of the visa, I think there's like a line in Chaucer which says, you know, they raised the taxes for war, and after the war's finished, the taxes never come down. So I think this is going to be the same thing in terms of visas and insurance. They're not going to get less strict. They're going to continue on this path. Thailand is moving to a more affluent group of retirees. They're trying to position themselves in Asia, in the market, to attract high-end retirees through systems like Elite and other such things. So if you do want to stay here and you want to be here long term, I would suggest that you really sort of plan that out, have a chat with you know, people like ourselves or other agencies, and we'll be able to advise you on what's your best visa to be on, what likely chances there are of insurance coming in. I mean, you know, I've been speaking at the Expat Club now for about 7 or 8 years, and the first question was always, when are they going to raise that 800,000 to 1 million? You know, that's still prevalent. There's a chance that that will be increased. So yeah, I would just say, you know, just forewarn is forearmed, keep yourselves informed. You know, the CEC do a great job, and yeah, reach out to the local businesses that specialise in these areas, and that will, you know, keep you on a good track.
yeah, so I completely agree with everything you said. I think they're trying to model themselves almost like on Singapore.
So the question, if you have an OA visa now, and you really can't leave the country, is there a way that you can change your OA visa to an O visa without leaving the country?
Yeah, you can just extension it inside, and you will change automatically to a non-immigrant O. The problem is that immigration will still class you as being on an OA. So in terms of insurance and everything else, you are still classed as an OA. So the only way to get off the OA visa is to leave the country, come in and reapply. As long as you have an OA in the history, so if you go back 8 years and you were on an OA and you've never left and never changed that extension, then for immigration in Chiang Mai, I can only talk about Chiang Mai, they class you as still on the OA, therefore you will need the medical insurance.
So there's still no way to really change your OA.
Well, I mean, yeah, there is a way, and you have changed. You will be off the OA onto an O, extension O, but in terms of what immigration require, they still class you as being on an OA because you've extended it. So for immigration, you still need the insurance.
If you have a retirement visa already. We can't hear you. If you have a retirement visa, RA, and you leave to go visit your home country, when you come back from your home country, you have to prove that you have health insurance.
So currently, yeah,
When you come back on title.
exactly. So currently, as it stands now, if you left today and then you were looking to come back, you know, in 2 months' time, you will need to show that you have insurance. It's part of the whole visa application process.
What I'm hearing, you have to, even though your retirement visa goes.
But they're two different things,
A
yeah.
long time, you have to prove that.
So the COVID insurance applies to everyone,
Okay.
regardless of what visa you're on. It applies to
No
everyone.
insurance, they won't let you come back.
No insurance with the minimum requirements that they're looking for, and you cannot come back. You have
See,
to.
my age, there's nobody gonna sell me health insurance.
How old is that?
Andy will say so. Just a note that if you did leave the country now, and this goes for everyone in the room who's on an O or OA, anyone who's not on an elite visa or business visa, if you leave the country today, you will not be allowed to come back in the country. So, people that have to leave, that have had to leave for family emergencies or funerals or business, they are now stuck outside the country and they cannot come back. So my office is dealing with a lot of stranded people, and we can only wait on immigration to announce that they're going to reopen the borders to people with long stay visas, but at present that is not the case. So if you do leave at the moment, no matter what insurance or visa that you have, you will not come back into the country until we change that.
If I may, if you already have a retirement visa and you have insurance coverage of the 400 requirement, how do you get the additional $100,000 COVID coverage? So you have your visa, you have the minimum requirement of insurance already, but you don't have the $100,000 COVID coverage. How does one go about doing that?
So for that, I would say there's two options. There's one type with the OA visa, because there's only 12 companies that they're accepted and they're all tiny. There's one particular company of those that will cover that OA visa and also cover the COVID insurance, the minimum. I think they set the minimum at 3.5 million baht. So that would cover both areas. Personally, and it would be more on a sort of a one-to-one basis where I could kind of go over more of the details. It's not what I would necessarily recommend, because I don't think the actual coverage itself is that great. What I would recommend is that you have two policies. So you would have one policy that fits your OA visa requirement, and it's for one of the better ones, it's the bare bones policy. It's the absolute cheapest policy you can get. Just fits the 400 inpatient, 40 outpatient. It's a huge deductible. You look at that as an extra tax on your visa, and then you look at getting some proper health insurance with an international company. And again, I would suggest the group health insurance that we have here, and then that's going to cover that requirement. So that covers that requirement, but also you will be able to use that insurance. So if you do need to claim for any kind of issues, then you can use that, and the two will cover everything there.
Okay, I'm changing the subject slightly. Am I right in understanding that this is going to damage Thailand as a country where you can organize conferences? Thailand has been very popular for international conferences. There are big hotels in Bangkok, and of course there's a conference center here. But if every international person coming to Thailand for a week's conference has to get an insurance that's valid for $100,000, the travel insurance are excluding COVID, that's the end of your conferences in Thailand.
Sure. So,
am I correct?
So currently, what's in the works is they're trying to introduce, as I'm sure you've heard, that next month supposedly they're opening up to tourists, and there's going to be an insurance that's going to cover those tourists that are coming in. That will cover the 100,000 and the COVID, except that's all it covers. So I think I was saying a moment ago that it would essentially get you in the door and just cover those COVID requirements. If you had that insurance, it won't cover anything else. It wouldn't cover you for a car accident. It wouldn't cover you for anything, just the COVID, and that would basically answer that question. And it's I think from what I've seen, it's quite affordable. It's quite cheap. But when you actually look at the details of it, for example, the first 14 days there's an exclusion on COVID. So while you're in quarantine, there's no cover for it. So they found a way to plug that loophole.
But this will be what I'm talking about is post-quarantine. because nobody's going to come for a 7-day conference and have to do 14 days quarantine before.
Sure, but then post-quarantine, it doesn't matter, does it? Yeah, I think it's just, they just want to see that insurance as you're coming into the country. That's all they want to see. Once you're in, once you've done your quarantine, you know, it's like here, right, you know, everyone here now could effectively not have insurance, and it you know, it's not required right now, it's just for coming in the country.
Ella? Yeah, Sue back here.
In terms of known unknowns and known knowns, etc., do you see any easing of the restrictions between Thailand and neighbouring countries such as Laos, Cambodia?
From my understanding, that will be the first. That will be the first indication that we're going to go back to normal, because as everyone probably knows, Vietnam's had very few cases, at least had no deaths. The fact that Thailand hasn't opened to Vietnam yet it shows how far we are away from basically opening the borders to everyone, because although they're talking about New Zealand and Scandinavia, etc., obviously it's going to make much more sense to open to Vietnam, which is just across the a neighbouring country. So from what I understand, Thailand has and was ready to open to Myanmar, Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And then maybe if you read the Bangkok Post about 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a spike in Burma, and all those sort of plans fell down. Now everyone's lived in Thailand even for quite some time, and there's probably newcomers. But what everyone will know is that once an announcement's been made in terms of to protect the Thai people and protecting COVID, it's very difficult for them to wind that back and try to go to like a more herd immunity or a different level. So it's my opinion that that will not happen until you see Cambodia opening, Laos opening, Vietnam opening. Then there'll be a trial with them for a few months. If there are cases within that trial, then everything will shut back down again until they can get a hold on it. So the recent announcement for the tourist visas are that they will allow quarantine from 2 weeks to 1 week if within that month there is no more than 3 cases in quarantine. So if 1,200 people come in, if 3 of those or more have COVID, then they will not relax the strict controls. So they're setting the standard very, very high. So yeah, for me, from what I'm seeing, once they open Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and possibly Burma, then we'll be able to then look at international travel being more widely available.
Actually, I just would like to meet somebody in the audience who has also the insurance from WHO, World Health Organization, just to exchange views. If anybody is here, that's me. I would like to meet somebody who has the insurance of World Health Organization.
I would like to ask you, if we buy this insurance, the expats insurance, which covers both, as you said, the COVID and what is necessary for if you have an accident or something within Thailand. Does that also, if I go to America, will it cover if I have an accident in America?
Yes. So obviously, asking that question because obviously the States is very expensive. Typically, international policies, what they do is you have 2 choices. You have what they call worldwide cover, and then you have worldwide, including the USA. Usually, if you choose worldwide cover, what that does is that will give you worldwide cover, and then it will give you, depending on the plan you choose, it will give you somewhere between, on a lower plan, it will give you 30 days per year when you travel to the US, accident and emergency, or as much as 60 days in the US, accident and emergency treatment. If you were to choose worldwide cover, including the USA, you can imagine it more than doubles the premium. And what that means is you can then have elective surgery in the US. It's not something I'd ever recommend because I don't think it's really necessary. I would say worldwide cover, and then you just get covered for travel in the US.
Thank you.
Hello. Question on the insurance, the group insurance here. Do you have to have a long-term visa for coverage here? My wife is Indonesian, so she comes in under the Asian agreement for 90 days at a time and then returns to Indonesia. Whereas I have a retirement visa for her. Would I be able to get her on the same coverage as me?
You would actually. So with international insurance, there's two places in the world that you can't live. You can't live in the USA because obviously it's extremely expensive, and you can't live in your home country because of the nature of international insurance. You need to be living outside of your home country. So for your partner, because she's Indonesian, then she could purchase this policy and live in Thailand, no problem. And
should be covered when she returns home, because she goes home every 3 months, right?
how long does she go for per time?
Usually.
Yeah, she would have cover for that. And then anyone that's here that's, for example, from the US that happens to have a Thai spouse, obviously being Thai, you can't get this insurance because you're living in your home country, but you can go on as a dependent. So, you know, if someone's from the US and their spouse is Thai, then they can go on under the same policy as yourself.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry to flog this to death. So I'm married to a Thai lady, and if I go on holiday without her, will they let me back in without COVID insurance?
No, they will not.
No. Your wife, your wife and spouse can come back without the insurance, but if every foreign national that's entering into Thailand must have COVID insurance, no matter who you are.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
As you know, we're live streaming, and we have a question from somewhere in the ether from Sam Gold. How can an older person get any health insurance with precondition like cancer, for example?
So, in the insurance world, there's a few preconditions that will always raise a red flag when you're applying. One of them is issues to do with the heart, and the other one would be cancer. You can still get insurance, but they just would. The simple answer to that is you can get insurance, but they would exclude the cancer. You can't. It's impossible to get cancer covered. The only time I've ever seen that where that exists is if you're in your own country. So I've seen it quite a lot in places like Australia. People who live in Australia get insurance, and then they will cover that. But once you're outside of your home country, then issues like cancer and heart disease will not be covered, just excluded, basically.
Could you just clarify, we've both got the same doubt. Can a person over 75 get an expat insurance?
Not the expats.
20% discount insurance.
No. You can get insurance, but not the group policy. The group policy, the final entry age is 75, and then after that, there are other insurance options available, but not with the group one, unfortunately. Okay.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for coming. I hope this was informative and pleasant. I want to ask a favor of you that I've asked several times in writing, but we really need to try to fill out those surveys that we send out. It's critical to our vendors. To give you an example of what happened today. As of a few days ago, 101 people had commented to come to the meeting today. And in the last 2 days, the number went to 140. So I changed our minimum guarantee from 100 to 135. 113 showed up. We're still going to be billed for 135 participants. So it's critical that we're just driving the cost of all of our events up by not RSVP and honoring your RSVP. And also we've had times when we've run out of food, we've had times when we've run out of seats. And so these surveys are going to become a regular part of the newsletters for each event. And I would just ask you to please take, it can't take 20 seconds and answer that question, and we'll be able to provide much higher quality events for you at a much lower cost. As far as the balance of the year, we're planning on finishing the year with all of our scheduled monthly general meetings and breakfasts probably, although we are having some difficulties with locations of the breakfast. And then the only other event that the general membership indicated that they really wanted to have was we will have the Christmas luncheon at La Cristal on the Saturday before Christmas. I haven't sat down and chatted with them. I don't know if I'm going to be able to wangle the price down a little bit from prior years, but it's already pretty low. It's a 2,250 baht buffet that you guys paid 900 baht for last year. So we're going to try to get it down a little bit, but we're definitely going to do that event. I don't remember the number day, but whatever the Saturday before Christmas Day is, and then at La Cristal. Tickets will go on sale sometime at the beginning of November. But guys, these tickets, if they last 2 weeks, you're lucky. We've had a waiting list every year that I know of, at least for the last 4 years. So if you have an interest in participating in this terrific event, you need to act quickly. I think everybody knows now that we have several electronic methods, either QR codes that you can use, bank transfers, or a PayPal account. So it's not just all cash, and you can do it remotely and pick your tickets up at will call. I want to invite everyone to participate in the newsletter. If you've got something that cool happened, send it to us. If you've got a story that you tell me, found a brand new restaurant that you love, send it in. And we'd love to publish it. And if anybody really is creative and would like to do a column like Dr. David did for The Flash, we'd be happy to have that kind of thing done too. Club needs help. Lots of our guys are stuck. So if you've got a little free time, let us know. But God bless you. Be safe. And we will see you at the next breakfast, I think, on the 3rd. October 2nd. So thanks very much.